What if the orange detour sign that pulled you off the highway at midnight was never posted by anyone and never came down? I'm Silas Mortis. I go where the internet keeps its worst things. The dead threads, the locked boards, the confession pages people find at 3 a.m. and regret by breakfast. And I bring the true ones back here. Tonight's came off Reddit's r/sleeper, posted at 3:14 in the morning by an account deleted before sunrise. 11 hours of highway, one wrong sign. The man who wrote it says he is still driving. Now let's get into the story. I take the orange sign at face value because it's midnight and I've been driving 11 hours. Road closed ahead, detour, big black arrow pointing right off US 83 onto something the map on my cracked phone doesn't bother to name. The sign is clean. That's the thing I keep coming back to. Out here, everything wears a coat of pale dust by August. The mailboxes, the cattle, your teeth. And that sign looked like it came out of the box an hour ago. I take the right. The Silverado's cab smells like a pine tree from a quick trip outside Rochester, and under that, faintly, like a hospital. You know that smell. Hand sanitizer and warm plastic. It gets into upholstery the way cigarette smoke does. Almost home, bug, I say to the mirror. The booster seat in back is the cheap one, the car's one, because she wouldn't let me buy the good one. Lightning McQueen has a scratch across his eye where she took a fork to him during a tantrum in 2023. A juice box sits in the cup holder, sweating, the straw still glued to the side in its wrapper. Goldfish crackers gone soft in a Ziploc. Her blanket, the blue one with the bees, pulled up under her chin the way she likes it, tight enough to be a promise. The AC is at 62. It's 58 degrees outside. My hands are white on the wheel and I don't turn it up. 14 missed calls from Dana, a voicemail I have not played. On the rearview mirror stem, a green plastic wristband hangs like a rosary, and I flick it with my thumb every few miles, the way some men touch a St. Christopher. Nobody's behind me. Nobody's ahead of me. Nebraska at midnight is a black table with a road drawn on it, the truck with no headlights. 4 miles in, the county road narrows and the pavement changes voice, that gritty chip seal hum, and I check the mirror out of pure habit. There's a truck back there. No headlights. Just a shape darker than the dark, keeping station about a quarter-mile back, matching me. When I slow, it slows. When the road bends, it takes the bend. I do the math a man does. Wallet, $11. Phone, 1 bar, 42%. Screen spiderweb since March. Tire iron, behind the seat, under a folded moving blanket. 11 hours of highway sitting in my shoulders like wet sand. Winnie, I say, sit back. I speed up, 65 on a road built for 40, the truck falls away. Then at the top of a rise, headlights bloom behind me. Not weak farm truck lights, the modern kind, LED blue, and they come up so fast that for a second I think about the ditch. Seriously, I think about which ditch. The truck passes me. It's a Ford, maybe 15 years old, orange dot strobe bolted to the roof and not turning. In the bed, a stack of sign blanks and a pile of sawhorses, jouncing. The driver lifts 2 fingers off the wheel at me. The country wave, the one that means I see you, you're not alone out here. And I lift 2 fingers back and laugh out loud at my own heart hammering. Then he pulls 100 yards ahead and stops in the middle of the road. Vessel, Nebraska up to, of course that's top. He gets out. Reflective vest, hard hat under his arm, 60-something, a face like a wallet somebody sat on for 30 years. He walks back with his hands visible, which is a thing decent men do at night on empty roads, and I crack the window 3 inches. You lost, Haas? Detour, I say. Back on 83. He looks at me for a second too long. There's no work on 83, I know. It's my county. There's a sign. There's no sign. He says it gently. That's what gets me. Not spooky, not sly, gently, the way you tell somebody their tail lights out. Roads open all the way to Ogallala. Whoever put that up? He stops. He's looking past me, into the back seat. The dome light is on because my window's down. His face does something. Not fear. Grief, maybe. The way a man's face folds when he recognizes a thing he's seen before and hoped not to see again. He steps back from my door. You go on into Vessel, he says. There's a church on the left. Lights will be on. Vessel's not on my map. Yeah, he says and puts his hard hat on. It ain't on much. I drive. In the mirror, he doesn't move. Just stands in my taillights, getting smaller and redder until the road bends and takes him. Vessel, Nebraska is 9 buildings and a grain elevator wearing the moon like a hat. 2 streetlights, a Sinclair with a plywood dinosaur, and a church, white clapboard, lights on, the parking lot holding 1 Buick. I don't want to stop, but the fuel light has been on since the last counting, and there's a hand-lettered sign in the church window. Pantry and gas. Knock anytime. We mean it. A woman answers. 70, cardigan, reading glasses on a chain, a paperback in her hand with her thumb still holding the page. Behind her, a folding table, coffee urn, cardboard boxes of canned corn. The most ordinary room in America. Well, come in, honey, you look. And she stops because she's followed me back to the truck because I said my daughter's asleep. I can't leave her, and she has put her hand on the rear window to shade the glass and look in. The paperback hits the gravel. She doesn't scream. She says, "Oh," very softly once, like the wind got knocked out of her. And then she says the thing I will hear for the rest of my life in that kind church basement voice. "Sweetheart, how long have you been driving?" 11 hours. "No," she says. "How long have you been driving?" I get in. I lock the doors. She's still talking, hands up, backing along beside my window as I roll, saying, "Stay right here. Stay with me. Let me call somebody." And in the mirror, she gets small, and behind her, the church lights are the last honest light I see. 2 miles out of Vessel, there's an orange sign. Road closed ahead. Detour. Arrow pointing right. Clean as a new dime. The net, I take it, because it's midnight and I've been driving 11 hours. The next one's a mile on, then another. They come like breadcrumbs, and I follow them the way you follow anything that tells you there's still a road. And somewhere in there, I start noticing that every turn is a right. Right. You know what 4 rights is? 4 rights is a box. I'm on 83 again. Same mile marker, 137. The reflective paint chipped in the same spot, like a tooth. My odometer says I've gone 31 miles. The clock says 12. The clock has said 12 since Rochester. "Winnie," I say, and my voice comes out wrong. "Honey, wake up now. Dad needs you to wake up now." The blanket doesn't move. I pull the phone, 1 bar, and there they all are, stacked down the screen like flagstones. Dana, 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 Dana. And above them at the top, a gray box with an orange stripe I have been swiping away for 11 hours without reading, the way you swipe away weather. Amber Alert, Rochester, MN. A 6-year-old girl, silver Chevrolet Silverado, Nebraska plates. A photograph of my daughter at the Sinclair in Ogallala with a blue raspberry ring around her mouth, taken by me in June with this phone. I play the voicemail. Dana isn't angry. That's the part I can't put down. 11 hours and my wife isn't angry. She's tender. She's using the voice you'd use on a hurt animal in a road. And she says, "Baby, they're not chasing you. Nobody's chasing you. They just want you to stop." She's gone, honey. She went at 10 past 1, and you were holding her hand, and you were so good. You were so good with her. And then you carried her out through the parking garage, and I couldn't. Please just stop the truck. Please stop the truck and let them take her. She's been in that seat all day. She's been in that seat all day. Please. The green wristband on my mirror stem. I turn it in the dome light, so the print faces me. Winifred R. Doe 4/11/2019. Gonda 4 Pay CU. And under her name, on a second band I put there myself and did not let myself read since 1:10 that afternoon. A barcode and 1 word in 9-point type. Ahead of me the horizon fills with light. Not orange. Blue and red, a whole quilt of it. 4 cruisers nose out across both lanes, and a line of men standing in front of them with their hands empty and open. And one of them has a bullhorn, and he is not shouting, he's asking. And behind the cruisers is an ambulance with its back doors already open and the interior light on, soft and yellow, like a kitchen with somebody in it waiting up for you. They were never hunting me. They were catching me. Every sign, every right turn, every mile. A net drawn closed by kind, tired people who wanted to bring me in gently. I put my foot on the brake. God is my witness, I put my foot on the brake. And from the back seat, muffled through the blanket with the bees on it, my daughter says, "Dad, the sign." What the foreman knew. There is an orange sign in my headlights. It stands in the middle of the road, in front of the cruisers, in front of the ambulance, in front of the man with the bullhorn who is asking me please. It is between me and all of them, and it is clean. And it says road closed ahead, detour, and the arrow points right. I want you to understand that I could still see them. That's the thing I need somebody to understand. Their faces were right there, lit up in my brights, and one of the troopers was maybe 25 years old, and he was crying, and the arrow said right. 11 hours. Midnight. A sign is a sign. I take the right. The last thing in my mirror is the ambulance light going small and yellow and warm, and then the bend takes it. The way the bend took the foreman, the way the bend took the woman with the paperback in the gravel. And the road ahead is black and new and smells like fresh chip seal. And the AC is at 62, and my daughter is asleep, and we are almost home. Bug, we are almost home. There's a mile marker up ahead, 137. The paint's chipped like a tooth. I've stopped counting how many times I've passed it. Somewhere around 400, I notice the juice box is still full. It's always still full. The straw's never been unwrapped, and I put that straw in her hand at 12:40 in the afternoon in a room on Gonda 4, and she was too tired to take it. Sometimes there's a truck behind me with no headlights, and I know now that's just Merle from the county, who has been trying to flag me down for a while, and who leans on his sign blanks at the crossroads with his hard hat off when I go by, and who does not follow anymore. Sometimes the church lights are on. I never stop, because here's what I finally figured out, and it's the only thing I have left to give you, so take it. The sign isn't the road's idea. The sign is mine. It's made out of the exact shape of the one thing I will not do, which is take my hands off her, and as long as I won't, the road will keep offering me a right turn, forever, clean as a new dime, and I will keep taking it. They're still standing out there at the roadblock, 25 years old and crying. Doors open, light on, waiting up. There's an orange sign ahead. I take it at face value because it's midnight and I've been driving 11 hours. If this one crawled under your skin, do me a favor, hit that like button. It costs you nothing, and it's the single biggest thing that tells YouTube to put this story in front of somebody else at midnight. Subscribe if you want a new one from me every single day, and share this with the person you'd want awake with you on a dark road. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. There's another story waiting on your screen right now. Go on, take it, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. What would you do if you drove 80 miles down a road you've mowed for 25 years and passed the same mile marker 3 times? I'm Silas Mortis. I go where the internet doesn't get scrubbed. Down in the dark web's basement forums, people post things they'd never signed their names to. Confessions, incident reports, last messages. I read them so you don't have to. I picked the ones that are real. Tonight's came out of an archived locked thread on the Reddit hub r/nosleep, mirrored to a private board 11 days before the original account was deleted by someone who wasn't the account holder. It's called Mile Marker 9. Now, let's get into the story. There are 80 miles of Route 12 in Collie County, Nebraska, and I have cut the ditches on every one of them since I was 19 years old. That's not bragging. There's nothing to brag about. Route 12 runs west out of Delft past the grain co-op, past the Sinclair with the dinosaur missing its tail, and then it just goes. Corn on the right until it's beans on the right. A shelter belt, a dead cottonwood with a coyote nailed to it by somebody's grandfather in a year nobody remembers. 80 miles of nothing, but nothing has furniture in it if you sit in it long enough. I know every marker by its dents. Marker 4 leans east because Randy Ox put a Bronco into it in '99, and the county straightened it with a chain and a bad attitude. Marker 22 has 3 22 holes in a triangle, like a smiley face with no mouth. Marker 51 is newer than the rest, brighter green, a stranger, and I still don't like it. Marker 9 has a dent at the bottom shaped like a boot heel, and it leans about 6 degrees toward the ditch. And there's a rust-colored streak running down from the 9, like the sign is bleeding out of its own mouth. I've known that streak longer than I've known my wife. Corinne wraps my sandwich in foil every morning. Egg and Wonder Bread, 1 slice of American, cut on the diagonal, because she says the diagonal makes it taste different, and she's right. She folds the foil the same way every time. A hospital corner, a little tab at the end for my thumb. 22 years of that tab. She sets it in the blue igloo with a Coke and 2 ibuprofen in a snack bag because she knows about my back, and I've never once told her about my back. That's the whole marriage right there. That's more than I could say in a paragraph. I go out at 5:30. Diesel first, coffee second, radio third. The county gave me a deer with a sidearm and a cab that smells like hot dust in WD-40, and I run it at 4 miles an hour with my left hand on the wheel and my right hand on the boom. And I cut the ditch down clean so a kid coming out of a field road can see a semi coming. That's the job. That's the whole point of the job. So people can see what's coming. This spring, the grass came in early and mean, fescue up past the mirrors by the second week of May, and I was behind before I started. Tuesday. I remember because Dwayne Pelkey, my foreman, 20 years my junior, keeps his sunglasses on his hat like he's in a country video. Dwayne had radioed at 7 asking where I was at, and I said marker 8, and he said copy. And that was the last normal thing anybody said to me. At 7:40, I passed marker 9. At 8:15, I passed marker 9. I stopped the boom, sat there with the diesel knocking, looked at the dent, boot heel, looked at the lean, 6 degrees, looked at the rust streak coming down out of the 9 like a nosebleed. Now here's the thing you have to understand about a county road crew. We're always the last to know. The state does a survey, the state moves a marker, the state doesn't call. Spring of '08, they resigned the whole East End, and nobody told me until I'd mowed past a marker 63 that had been marker 61 on Friday. So I keyed the mic and I said, Dwayne, anybody out here setting sign? Static. Then Dwayne chewing something. Setting sign on 12? Ross, we can't get a culvert. Nobody's setting sign. There's 2 9s. Long pause. Long enough for me to hear him decide something about me. 2 9s, he said. Same dent. Longer pause. Then, careful, the way you talk to a man on a ledge. Ross, when's the last time you took a day? I hung the mic up. I want to be fair to Dwayne, because at that point I was thinking the exact same thing he was thinking. My father went out at 61. Not his heart, his wiring. It started with him calling me by his brother's name, and it ended with him standing in the yard at 4 in the morning in his good church coat, waiting for a bus that had stopped running in 1974. The doctors had a word for it. The word cost $1,100. There's a card in my visor. Neurology, Kearney, June 3rd, 2:15 p.m. It's been in the visor since March. It's gone soft at the corners from me pulling it out and putting it back. Corinne doesn't know about the card. Corinne knows about my back, which is how I know she'd know about the card if I let her. So when I saw 2 9s, I didn't think the road is wrong. I thought I'm the thing that's wrong. And I felt something in my chest go loose and cold, like a tooth coming out. I mowed on. At 9:02, I passed marker 9. The third one was different. The third one had my truck parked in front of it. It was my '04 F-150, primer on the fender where the county salt got in, the ladder rack Corinne's brother welded crooked. It was idling, blue smoke curling off the tailpipe, thin, the way it does when it's been running a while. Driver's door open, radio going, some ad for a farm auction in Ord, a man's voice hollering about tillage equipment, all cheer, no listener. I climbed down. My legs didn't feel like a stroke. My legs felt like legs. Wind coming across the beams, meadowlarks somewhere doing that fluty 3-note thing they do. I looked in the cab. The seat had a shape in it. You know what I mean? The way vinyl holds you, the low spot where a man sits year after year until the foam gives up and agrees to be him. It was warm. I put my hand on it and it was warm as a dog. There was a thermos in the cup holder, capped. There was foil balled up on the passenger seat. I looked at that balled foil for a long time because my sandwich was in my cooler, on the mower, 20 feet behind me unopened, with the little tab folded for my thumb. And I looked in the visor for the card because I needed to know whether this truck was mine or a truck like mine, and the card was there, soft at the corners, June 3rd, 2:15 p.m. And behind the card, I hadn't looked behind it in 25 years, was a Polaroid. 2 men in front of a county deer. One of them is 19 and doesn't know what his face is for yet. The other one is maybe 60, sunburned to the color of a brick, arm around the kid like he's holding him up. Cliff Hardaway, my trainer. My first 2 weeks on this road. I hadn't thought about Cliff in years, and that's a lie, and I'd like to tell it anyway. Here's what happened to Cliff Hardaway in the summer of 1994, according to Cawley County. He walked off. That's the file. Man had a divorce going and a drinking thing. And one Tuesday in July, his truck was found on the shoulder of Route 12, idling. Driver's door open, thermos capped in the cup holder. Sheriff figured he crossed the beans to Sawyer Creek and went in. They dragged it. They found a cooler and a boot. They didn't find Cliff. His sister put a cross out there with plastic carnations zip-tied to it. And every year the sun ate the color out of them until they went the white of old bone. And every year I mowed around that cross without slowing down. Because I'm the one who found the truck, 19 years old, 2 weeks on the job. I put my hand on that seat and it was warm as a dog, and I did not tell one living soul that part. Not the sheriff, not Corinne, not the man at the funeral with no body in it. Because a warm seat means he was there 10 minutes ago. And if he was there 10 minutes ago and the beans were empty in every direction, then I was going to have to think about it for the rest of my life. So I filed it under nothing. Route 12 has a lot of nothing in it. I told you, nothing has furniture. I got in my truck. I'm going to be honest with you about the next part, because there's no version of it where I look like a man in control. I left the deer in the ditch with the key in it and the boom down, and I got in that truck and I drove east toward Delph, toward the co-op and the Sinclair in my house with the porch light Corinne leaves on even in June. Marker 8 went by, marker 9 went by. I checked the mirror. The deer sat there in the ditch, getting small, exactly where I left it. Good. Fine. That's what things do when you drive away from them. Marker 9 went by. The deer sat there in the ditch, getting small. I put my foot down, 70, 80. The truck shook the way it does past 75. The ladder rack humming, and the beans went by in that green pull that makes your eyes water. And I hit 95 and the odometer rolled up and up and up. And marker 9 went by, boot heel dent, 6-degree lean, rust running out of the 9 like a nosebleed. And my own mower sitting in my own mirror getting small, getting small, getting small. I drove till dawn. Let me say that again, and I want you to hear the shape of it. I drove till dawn, and it never got dark first. The sun sat up there at that hard 9 a.m. angle, that flat white Nebraska light that doesn't come from anywhere in particular, and it did not move. And the meadowlark did its 3 notes, and did its 3 notes, and did its 3 notes. I ran the tank to E. I ran it past E. That truck ran on E for 4 hours because there was no gas in it and no need for gas in it. And somewhere in there I understood that I had not been driving toward Delph. I had been driving around the inside of something, like a fly in a Coke bottle. I want to tell you about the mileage because it's the part that gets me at 3 in the morning. Route 12 in Cawley County is 80 miles. Ask anybody. It's on the sign at the co-op, welcome to Delph. Gateway to the 80. There's a t-shirt. The county's own plat book says 79. I found that out in '02 and I laughed about it. Clerical thing. Some surveyor's bad Tuesday. Sitting on the shoulder with a needle on E and the sun nailed to the sky, I did the arithmetic I've been not doing for 25 years. 79 miles on paper, 80 in the world. The road grew a mile. It grew it in 1994, and it was hungry again. I got out and I walked back to my mower and I climbed up in the cab and the seat took me the way it always does. And I sat there with my hands on the wheel and I waited because there was nothing else in the world to do. That's when the pickup came over the rise. Primer on the fender, crooked ladder rack. It pulled onto the shoulder behind my deer, easy, no hurry, and a young man got out, 19 years old, skinny in the shoulders in that way that hasn't finished. Cheap sunglasses. He was chewing gum with his mouth open and looking around at 80 miles of nothing like it had insulted him personally. I knew that face. I've shaved that face. It's just been a while since it looked back. He walked right past my cab. He walked past me, close enough I could see the gum, spearmint, could see the sunburn starting on the back of his neck where he hadn't learned about the collar yet. And he went to the driver's door of that idling truck and looked in at the seat. I hit the glass. I hit it with the flat of both hands and I screamed at him. And what came out of me wasn't my voice. It was low and it was ruined. And it had a smoker's crackle in the bottom of it. and it belonged to a man who went into Sawyer Creek in 1994 and never came out. The kid didn't hear it. But he stopped. He stopped, and his shoulders went up around his ears the way a man's do when a room gets cold. And he stood there a second with his hand hovering over that warm seat, and then I watched him do it. I watched him decide it was nothing. Then he got back in his own truck, and he pulled out and he drove east toward Delph and the co-op and a porch light, and he filed it under nothing, and he took my whole life with him. I opened my cooler. I want to end on this because the sign and the sun and the voice, those are just facts. This is the part that's true. Corinne wraps my sandwich in foil, 22 years. Hospital corner, little tab for my thumb. What was in my cooler was wax paper, folded flat and creased twice with a thumbnail, the way my mother did it. The way she did it in the summer of 1994 when I was 19 years old and had a job with the county and a whole life out in front of me like 80 miles of road. I ate it. It was good. It was exactly like I remembered, which is how I knew. I mow 1 mile now, forever. The grass comes back behind me as fast as I cut it. I've watched it happen. You can see the blades stand up in the mirror like a crowd that won't sit down. The dent still in the sign, the lean still 6 degrees. The rust streak isn't rust, I know that now. But I mow past it 4 miles an hour and I don't look because that's the deal. Cliff didn't look either. That's the whole trick of it. And it's so simple I could cry. The road doesn't take men who see it coming. It takes the ones who file it under nothing. Somewhere behind me, a young man is starting to count. He'll count for 25 years. He'll know every marker by its dents. He'll marry a woman who wraps his sandwich with a little tab for his thumb, and he'll have a card in his visor he won't tell her about. And one Tuesday in a spring with mean grass, he'll come over the rise and see 2 nines, and he'll key the mic and somebody young will ask him when's the last time he took a day. And I'll be standing right there, and I'll scream with a stranger's voice, and he won't hear a thing. Route 12 is 80 miles long now. Ask me again next spring. If this one got under your skin, do me a favor. Hit that like button. It costs you nothing, and it tells YouTube to put this story in front of somebody else who's driving home alone tonight. Subscribe, because I'm here with a new story every single day, and share this with someone who needs it. You know exactly who they are. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. I'm Silas Mortis. I'll see you tomorrow. There is a cabin in Michigan that has never once been empty, not for a single night in 25 years. The owner makes sure of that because of what happens when it is. He rents it cheap. He takes cash. He does not ask what you do for a living, and he does not care whether you finish your book. He only cares that you are inside it, breathing when the sun goes down. I'm Silas Mortis. I go where the internet keeps its teeth, the boards without addresses, the mirrors that die by morning. And I bring back the stories that people only tell when they think nobody official is listening. Tonight's came up out of a locked archive, but it was born in the open on Reddit's r/leak, posted at 3:11 a.m. under the title Deadfall, and deleted 9 minutes later. Somebody saved it. Somebody always does. Now, let's get into the story I rented the cabin to write, 10 miles past where the phone signal quit. The signal died at the Deer Park sign. 1 bar, then the little pinwheel, then nothing, and the radio went to that soft hiss that sounds like somebody sleeping in the back seat. My Pontiac had 211,000 miles on it and a windshield crack that ran from the wiper to the mirror like a river on a map. Every pothole made the crack tick. After the pavement ended, it ticked for 40 minutes straight. The listing had said rustic riders retreat, Luce County, no Wi-Fi. That's the point. $400 a month. Nobody charges $400 a month for anything with a roof unless the roof has a story. Dale Herney was waiting on the porch when I pulled in, and he did not wave. He was maybe 60, built like a man who had spent his life lifting the wrong end of things. And he had a chainsaw in the bed of his truck with fresh chips still stuck in the sprocket. Fresh. He'd been cutting that morning. He took my $400, counted it twice, and folded it into a wallet held together with a rubber band. You writing a book? Trying to. Good. He looked at the tree line when he said it. Stay in at night, bugs are bad. It was late September in the Upper Peninsula. It was 41 degrees. There were no bugs. Inside, the cabin smelled like cedar and old coffee. One room, one loft, one wood stove with a burn scar on the floor shaped like a foot, a coffee can of nails on the windowsill, a laminated card by the door with a number for the fire tower, and under it, in ballpoint, someone had written, "They don't answer after 9." Somebody else had tried to scratch it out and given up halfway. I put my laptop on the table. I put the FedEx envelope beside it, the one I'd been carrying from motel to motel for 5 months, the one with my ex-wife's lawyer's name in the corner. It had been folded and unfolded so many times the paper had gone soft, like cloth. I never opened it. I just moved it. That was my whole marriage now, a thing I moved. On the shelf above the stove, there was a black composition book, a guest book. I made coffee and read it like a menu. Cheryl and Bo, 1994. Saw a moose, the Kaminskis. Rain all week. Loved it anyway. Elias Vane, 2001. I stopped. My name is Elias Vance. I laughed out loud alone in a cabin 10 miles past the last bar of signal. Because, of course, some clerk somewhere had my name in a database and Dale had copied it wrong onto an old page, or I'd booked under a typo, or it didn't matter. It was a coincidence with a haircut. That's all. I noticed the little pencil check beside the name, and I did not think about it. There were checks beside about half the names. Housekeeping, I figured. Deposit returned. Something with a form number. I wrote 900 words that night. They were bad. I slept fine. In the morning, there was a circle on my porch. Branches. Deadfall. The dry stuff. The gray stuff that snaps like a wrist. Laid end to end into a ring about 4 feet across. Perfect enough that I stood there with my coffee going cold trying to find the compass that made it. No footprints. Frost on the boards all around it, unbroken, silver as a fish. Except inside the circle. Inside the circle, the frost was gone, and the wood was dry, and it was warm. I put my palm flat on it, warm like a dog had been sleeping there. I broke the circle apart with my boot and threw the branches in the fire and told myself, Dale. Dale with his chainsaw and his rubber band wallet, hazing the Flatlander, making sure I'd tell my friends the cabin was haunted so he could keep renting it at $400 a month. It was almost charming. I even wrote it down. Local color, I put in my notes. Use this. That was the first night I locked the door. The second night, it wasn't a circle. It was a door. 2 long uprights, a lintel across the top, a threshold at the bottom. Not leaned against the cabin, freestanding, out on the frost-white boards, a doorframe made of dead branches standing on nothing. And through it I could see my own porch railing and the dark and the trees, exactly the way you can see a room through a doorway. I got Dale's number off the laminated card. The satellite phone in the truck bed. His truck, not mine, and he wasn't there. So I drove. 22 minutes to his place on M77, and I hammered on his door at 6 in the morning with my heart going like a bird in a bag. He opened it in a bathrobe. He looked at my face and he did not look surprised, he looked sorry. You broke it up, he said. Not a question. In the circle, you broke it up. You need to stop this. Whatever this is. Was it a door this time? I stopped talking. Dale Herney leaned on his own doorframe like it was the only thing holding him at the vertical. And he said the thing I've thought about every night since. Long as somebody's in it, he said, it stays up there. And if nobody's in it, he didn't answer. He looked down the road toward town, toward the gas station, the church, the elementary school, with the mural of the loon on the side of it. And that's when I understood that Dale Herney was not a man haunting a cabin. He was a man feeding one. $400 a month, cash, no questions. Every month for 25 years, somebody inside that cabin. My hands started shaking on the drive back, and I let them. Here is the part I have never told anyone until now. The third morning, I woke up with sap on my hands, pitch, tacky and amber in the webs of my fingers, under my nails, pine needles in the bed. My boots by the door were wet to the laces, and there was a smear of black mud on the inside of the door handle, on the inside, where a hand would go if a hand were leaving. And the door of branches on the porch had grown. It had a frame now. It had detail. So I did what a rational man does. I went to the mirror over the sink, and I looked at a 44-year-old novelist with one good book behind him, A marriage he'd let rot in a FedEx envelope, and a prescription bottle in his shaving kit with a name on it he'd stopped saying out loud. Ambien, filled in March, half gone. It's me. God, the relief of it. It's me. I'm walking. I'm walking out there at 2 in the morning like a sad sleeping child, and I'm building doors out of sticks, and there's a word for that, and there's a pill for that, and there's a doctor in Ann Arbor for that. I flushed the Ambien. I nailed the door shut from the inside with a coffee can of nails. I stayed up all night with every lamp burning and my back to the wall, and I did not sleep. And I watched the tree line breathe, that slow in and out the pines do when the wind can't decide. And at 4:40 a.m., I was still awake, wide awake, nailed in, when the sound started on the porch. Dry wood, set down carefully. Tock, 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 tock. Somebody was building. It wasn't me. It had never been me. Whatever had touched me in my sleep had wanted me to think so, and it had left the sap on my hands the way a man leaves a tip. I saw him on the 4th day, orange vest at the tree line, maybe 80 yards out, standing in that patient hunter's way, arms down, head slightly cocked, hunting season, of course. A man in an orange vest is the most ordinary thing in the world in the UP in September. I nearly cried. I put my hands over my head and I yelled, "Hey, hey, buddy!" And I ran through the wet grass in my socks because he was another human being, and he had a truck somewhere, and I was going to get in it. He waited. That's the detail. He waited for me. 20 yards out, I could see the vest was rotted through, hanging in ribbons of that particular blaze color that doesn't fade, doesn't ever fade. They make it that way on purpose. I could see his arms were full of branches, cradled the way you carry firewood. I could see his mouth was open and had been open a long time. And I could see, hooked on his belt, a deer tag, laminated. The way you do it so the weather can't get at it. 2001. He didn't come toward me. He turned unhurried and walked back into the pines with his arm load, and the trees took him the way water takes a stone. That night the woods finished spelling. I watched from the window with the lamp off. Nothing came out of the trees. Nothing had to. The branches on my porch simply were not where they had been, in the way that the hour hand simply is not where it was. No motion, just arrival. They spelled a name, big block letters laid out across my porch boards, dead gray wood on frost, Eliasvane, a name that was almost mine. And I understood it all at once, the way you understand a sentence in a language you didn't know you learned. It wasn't a message, it was a door tag. It was the name on the reservation. The Woods had been trying to spell a name since 1994, since before that, since before Cheryl and Bo saw their moose and the pencil checks in the guest book weren't housekeeping. They were the ones who fit. Elias Vane. Rented 2001. Still out there in his orange vest, gathering branches every night for 25 years, spelling his own name over and over, waiting, patient as a tree, for somebody to walk up that road whose name was close enough. Because the Woods are not careful. The Woods are only patient. The door of branches swung inward on nothing. That's what I want you to understand. It swung on nothing. There was no hinge and no wall and no inside, and it opened anyway. And through the doorway, I could see my own porch railing. And it was the wrong porch railing. It was the same railing, but the frost on it was undisturbed. And the lamp behind it was on, and there was a man sitting at my table with his back to me, hunched over a laptop, working, at 4 in the morning. And I knew the set of those shoulders because I have carried them my whole life. I should have stayed inside, but I had a phone with no signal, and a car with a cracked windshield and an envelope I'd never opened. And I had not spoken my daughter's name out loud in 11 months, and something in me, the same something that lets a man drive past the last bar of service in the first place, said, "Go see." I stepped through to see. And the cabin's light shrank behind me like a closing eye. There's no violence in it. I want to be honest with you, because nobody was honest with me. It doesn't hurt. It's a trade. That's all it ever was. He'd done his time, and he'd spelled his name, and I was close enough. And the second my boot crossed that threshold of dead branches, I felt the whole weight of it come off him and settle onto me like a coat somebody drops over your shoulders in the cold. I turned around and Elias Vane walked past me the other way. Out, into my cabin, into my lamplight, out of the orange vest, and for 1 second, His eyes came unstuck and found mine, and he said the only word he'd had in his mouth for 25 years. He said, "Sorry." Then he walked down my porch steps and up the road toward Deer Park, 25 years late for wherever he'd been going. And I stood in the frost in a rotted vest with my arms already filling up with wood. Now I gather branches nightly, spelling the next name for whoever rents this place. Dale's dead. I watched them carry him out in March, and I want you to know I wasn't glad. He was just a man who found out what was on his land and did the only arithmetic he could. Better one stranger a month than a whole town. He kept the cabin full for 25 years. That's not evil. That's a farmer. His nephew runs the listing now. $400 a month, cash. He doesn't know. The ad still says no Wi-Fi. That's the point. So here's what I do, and God help me for it. I cheat. I spell them almost. One letter wrong, always, deliberately. A name close enough to pull somebody up that road, but not close enough to catch. Because as long as it doesn't catch, nobody trades and nobody stands where I'm standing. Every night I lay it out. Every dawn I take it apart. I have gotten very, very good at wood. But my arms are getting slower, and the woods have started laying the letters back, correcting me while I sleep, the way a patient teacher corrects a child. And last night on the porch, in dry gray deadfall, I found a name I had not spelled. It was almost yours. If this one crawled under your skin, do me a small kindness. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow and tells YouTube to put these stories in front of the people who need them. Subscribe for a new one every single day and share this with someone who loves it or someone who's about to rent a cabin real cheap. Thank you for listening and for watching. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. I'm Silas Mortis. Stay inside, and I'll see you tomorrow night. What if the fence around your new house wasn't built to keep something out, but to keep you from ever walking off that land alive? I'm Silas Mortis. I go where the internet doesn't get indexed, down in the locked boards, the mirrored forums, the places people post the thing they can't say out loud to anyone with a face. That's where I collect. I don't write these. I find them. I read them to you the way they were confessed. Tonight's came off a deleted r/nos leak thread, archived by a stranger 4 minutes before the mods pulled it. Posted from Garfield County, Montana, he called it the fences face inward. Now, let's get into the story. The bank sold us that ranch for less than my truck cost, and I should have asked why a man walks away from 400 deeded acres of Montana and doesn't even come back for his tools. 40 miles out of Jordan, that's the town. A gas pump, a school with 11 kids in it, and a bar that shuts when the owner gets tired. From our porch, you could turn a full circle and not find one other porch light. At night, the dark out there isn't a color. It's a weight. It sits on the roof. June found the listing. That's important, and I want you to hold on to it because I didn't think about it once for 8 months. We signed in a title office in Miles City that smelled like carpet glue and burnt coffee. Halloran's widow signed for the seller. Little woman, maybe 60, in a church dress on a Tuesday. Her hands shook so bad the notary had to hold the paper down flat with 2 fingers. And when she was done, she didn't shake my hand or say congratulations or any of the things people say. She said, "Keep the wire tight." I laughed. I actually laughed. I said, "Yes, ma'am, that's the plan." She looked at June when she said it. Not at me, at June. And June nodded once, slow, the way you nod when somebody tells you something you already know. The fence was the first thing I noticed, and it took me a week to notice it right. There's a wire fence around the whole home place. 5 strands, 40-some acres, running a square around the house and the barn and the corrals. Good fence. Better than the house. Somebody had bled on that fence. And every barb on it faced in. You've maybe never thought about barbed wire having a direction. It does. A barb's got a little cant to it, a lean, and a man stringing wire naturally sets it so the burrs bite whatever's coming at him from the outside. Halloran's wire leaned the other way. Every twist of it. 4 sides, 40 acres. Somebody stood in that yard, in the grass, and strung 2 miles of wire facing himself. The staples were the same, driven into the inside face of every post. You staple from the inside, the wire can't be pushed outward. It can only be pulled in tighter. A cow leans on that fence from the pasture, it pops loose. A thing leans on it from the yard, it holds. I remember standing there with the fencing pliers in my hand and thinking, this man was not right. That was the first thing they let me believe. The grass was the second. Inside the wire, that pasture was the best grass in the county. Belly high on a horse, green in August, when everything from here to the Dakotas is the color of a paper bag. Halloran had 40 acres of the finest graze in eastern Montana, and he had it empty. His cows were outside. I mean, their bones were. Scattered out in the sage and the cheatgrass, maybe 30 head, laid down in the bad graves within sight of that green. Some of them right up against the wire. You could see where they'd walked the fence line, back and forth, a cattle trail worn in the gumbo 6 inches deep, noses to the wire, looking in at all that feed. He'd starved them rather than open the gate. And nothing had chewed those bones. That's what I kept coming back to. Coyotes will crack a cow femur like a pretzel stick. Magpies, badgers, the whole crew. Those bones were clean and dry and whole and 40 yards outside my fence, and nothing in the state of Montana had put a tooth on them. June wouldn't walk out there, not once that whole first summer. She'd stand at the wire with her arms crossed and look at them, and then she'd look back at the house. The gate was wired shut from the outside, not latched, wired, a loop of smooth wire twisted with pliers on the far side, where you'd have to be standing off the place to work it. I cut it the first day and hung a proper chain, and June cried that night in the bathroom with the fan on so I wouldn't hear. I thought she was crying because it was lonely out there, because her mother was in Bozeman and the nearest anything was 40 miles. I brought her coffee in the morning and told her we'd get a satellite dish, and she smiled at me with her eyes wet and said, "You're a good man, Wes." She said it like she was reminding herself. The dog wouldn't come in. Pepper, blue heeler, 8 years old, slept on our bed in Billings her whole life. First night at the ranch, she sat down outside the gate and would not cross the wire. I carried her in. She screamed. I've never heard a dog make that sound, not hit by a car, nothing. And she got loose and she was over that fence and gone. And in the morning, she was sitting out by the cattle bones, watching the house. She lived out there 2 years. Wouldn't come in past the wire, wouldn't leave the place either. June fed her at the gate. Every evening out to the gate with the bowl, and Pepper would eat with her eyes on the house, on the windows, tracking something behind the glass. I told June it was coyotes. Dogs go feral. It happens. June said, sure. Then in October, the first moonless night, the fence started singing. If you've never heard it, barbed wire under load makes a low note, almost pretty, like somebody dragging a bow across the bottom string of a bass. Wire hums when something's leaning on it. I sat up in bed at 3 a.m. and the whole west side of the fence was humming. I got the Coleman and went out in my shorts and my boots, cold enough to see my breath. I walked the whole west line with that lantern hissing, and I found the wire still trembling. You could feel it in the post, that little live shiver going out of it. And 2 staples pulled halfway out, pulled out from the yard side. Something had been leaning on my fence from the inside. I swung the light around at 40 acres of black grass and I said, hey, like an idiot, like a man who's watched too much television. Nothing answered, but I'll tell you what I heard. I heard the grass moving away from me, not running, not scared, just moving off, unhurried, and every step of it was heavy. And out past the wire, out in the dark by the bones, Pepper started to howl. That's when I found the ledger. Barn office in a coffee can under a jar of horseshoe nails. Halloran's, cattle ledger, green cloth cover, and I opened it up expecting head counts and vaccination dates. Tally marks, that's all. Page after page of pencil tally marks, 4 and a slash, 4 and a slash, 10,000 of them, 31 years of them. He wasn't counting cows, he was counting nights. And at the back, in handwriting that had gotten bad, real bad, the letters big and blown out like a kid's, one line, it don't get tired, you do. I sat on an overturned bucket in that barn until the sun came up. And here's the part I'm ashamed of. I felt sorry for him. This poor, mad old man out here alone, 31 years, fencing himself in against a ghost, starving his cows over a story he told himself. I even said it out loud. I said, you poor crazy son of a bitch. That was the second thing they let me believe. Winter, it got bad. I started losing time. That's the only way to say it. I'd be washing a cup at the sink at 9 at night, and then I'd be sitting on the porch step and it'd be 1 in the morning and my feet would be cold. My bare feet. My boots would be by the door on their sides, gumbo mud packed in the tread, and it hadn't rained in 3 weeks. There's no wet ground in a Montana January. There's no mud to get. I found mud anyway, black and slick and stinking like the bottom of a stock tank. I had scratches on my forearms I didn't remember, long ones. I told myself, wire. You're on that fence every day. Of course it's wire. And June changed. She got quiet and thin, and she slept with her back against the wall and the bedroom door open and the hall light on. She had a habit I hated. She kept her truck keys in her sock, slept in them. I'd feel them against my leg in the night, that little lump of metal, and it made me so angry I had to lie there and count my own breathing. I thought she was scared of the place. I thought she was scared of the dark, of the nothing, of 40 miles between us and another human being. I even asked her one night in February. I said, June, are you afraid out here? And she said, not out here. Third thing, March. I found the grit in my coffee, a little bit of chalk in the bottom of the cup, and I don't take sugar. I stood there rolling it on my tongue, and then I went and looked in her purse, and there it was, pharmacy bottle, no label left on it, half gone. I looked it up on the satellite when it was working. Zolpidem, sleep medicine, prescribed in Miles City. Halloran are his pills. She'd taken his pills out of that house, and she'd been putting them in my coffee since October. And there was a grocery list in the same purse, on the back of a co-op power bill with a past due stamp on it, in her handwriting, wire, staples, gloves, chain, Ambien. Call Mrs. H, Mrs. H. She'd been calling the widow. I want to be honest with you now because I've got no reason left to lie. I stood in that kitchen holding my wife's grocery list, and I did not feel afraid, and I did not feel betrayed. I felt something else feeling, way down, like a big animal turning over in deep water. And the water was me. And that thing was so pleased. I went out that night and I looked at my fence, my beautiful wire, all those thousands of barbs leaning in at me like teeth in a closing mouth, and I finally understood what I was looking at. It wasn't a lunatic's fence, it was a pen. The bolt cutters were in the truck box, and the truck key was on June's ring, and the ring was in her sock. And I laid there next to her for 3 hours, listening to her breathe and pretending to be asleep. And around 4 a.m., I took them. She didn't wake up. Or she did, and she stayed still. I've thought about that a lot. I think she stayed still. I walked out into that black yard with the cutters, and I went to the west line, where the staples always pulled, and I put the jaws on the bottom wire, and I told myself I was doing a merciful thing. I told myself, whatever's in here has been in here 31 years, and it never asked to be. Let it out. Let it go be somebody else's dark. I cut the wire. It went off like a rifle shot. That much tension, 2 miles of it, the whole west line let go at once, and it snapped past my face, close enough to open my cheek, and I never felt it. Then it was quiet, real quiet. And behind me, from the house, I heard the screen door. I turned around with my heart trying to climb out of my collar. It came across the yard toward me, slow, and it did not walk like it was in a hurry, and it was wearing my wife's coat, that green canvas Carhartt with the cuff she'd burned on the wood stove, coming right at me. And I stood there. I want you to understand. I stood there with the cutters in my hand, and I was so afraid I could not close my eyes. It walked past me. Close enough, I could smell wood smoke. It stopped at the cut wire in the gap, and it turned its head, and it said, Wes, don't follow me. It was June. It was only ever June. She stepped over that broken wire and she walked out into the sage, past the bones, and Pepper stood up out of the dark and went with her, tail low, and I stayed where I was. I couldn't move. My boots were full of mud again, and it hadn't rained in 3 weeks. I stood in that yard until her taillights were 2 red pinholes on the county road, and then in nothing at all. She wasn't the one being kept in. Halloran didn't starve his cattle in that pasture. He kept them out. Kept every warm living thing out past the wire where it'd be safe, because he knew what was in there with him, and he'd known it for 31 years, and he never once let it out. Not when it got dark, not when it got lonely, not when it wore his wife's coat and talked to him with her mouth. Mrs. Halloran didn't say keep the wire tight to me. She said it to June, because June was taking the job. She held that job 8 months. She's better than I was. She got out. I restrung the west line myself. Took 2 days. New wire out of the barn. Holleran had 6 rolls of it, and now I know why a man keeps 6 rolls of wire for a fence that's already built. The barbs face in. I want you to know I checked. I checked every twist on my knees in that gumbo, and every burr on 2 miles of wire leans toward this house. I stapled from the inside. I wired the gate shut from the outside, which meant reaching through, which meant an hour with the pliers and my arm in past the elbow. And it took me so long because my hands kept wanting to stop. Then I threw the bolt cutters over the fence. They're out there right now, hanging on a post by the cattle bones, 40 yards out, in the good clean grass where the sun hits them, rusting, where I can see them every single day of my life, where I can't ever reach them again. The barn ledger's on the kitchen table, and I've started my own page. I'm at 409. It gets restless around 3 in the morning. The wire sings and the staples groan, and the west line's the worst. It's always been the west line. And I go out and I lean on the post and I hold on. That's all the job is, holding on. It don't get tired. You do. So if the county ever sells this place cheap, and they will, they always do, that's how it gets you. It lets itself go cheap, and you walk that fence line, and you see the burrs leaning at the house instead of out at the country, and you think this man was not right in the head. Leave the wire, leave the gate, and whatever comes across that yard wearing a face you love, telling you it just wants to be let out, that's not what's inside. I'm what's inside. If this one got under your skin, do me a favor, hit that like button. It costs you nothing, and it's the single biggest thing that tells YouTube to put these stories in front of somebody else at 3 in the morning. Subscribe if you want a new one every single day, and share this with the one person you know who'd stand in that yard with the cutters. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. There's another one waiting for you on your screen right now. Go on and take it. I'll see you tomorrow night.